Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of IPCS Parallax. In today's episode, we'll be discussing Nepal's new government and its domestic and regional priorities. For this conversation, we have with us Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, who is the Research Director at the Nepal Institute of International Cooperation and Engagement. Welcome, Dr. Jaiswal.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Just to contextualize this conversation a little bit for our audience, this new government that we're talking about came into power in March 2026 after early elections were held in Nepal under the care of a caretaker government. These elections were preceded by months-long nationwide protests that brought to the fore many important issues about Nepal's political landscape. Most of the issues that were brought to contention were economic inequality, issues of corruptions, about human rights violations, among many others. The elections saw the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, or the RSP, win a landslide victory, and its face, Balendra Shah, who was also once the mayor of Kathmandu city, become the new prime minister. Earlier this month, this new government has completed 100 days in power. So, Pramod, why don't you tell us what is your reading of these first 100 days, these crucial 100 days of this government in power?
Before I come to analyze the 100 days of this current government, let me briefly bring you the major change that Nepal has witnessed today, and that will be easier for you to contextualize how effective the government was.
Sure.
People used to believe that with the current electoral system that we have direct election, FTTP, and we have proportionate election. In this system, people used to believe that it's almost impossible to have a simple majority. And this government got almost two-thirds majority. That was historic. And a person who was a rapper, later became a mayor, became a prime minister of Nepal at the age of 36. Now, he is from Madhya, and for the first time in the history of Nepal, a person from Madhya has become a prime minister. This person, Balendra Shah, he didn't have a party 1 month before he joined the party through which he became the prime minister. So a person, 35, 36 years old, rapper, without a party, became the prime minister of Nepal with almost two-thirds majority. Now, he defeated the most powerful leader of that time, KP Sharma Oli, the largest party, most influential, in his constituency with the highest margin. So it is historic. So you can see that the changes that came in Nepal was really historic. Now, it's not only the prime minister who is young, but the entire cabinet is very young. Because we all know that it was after the youth-driven Gen Z movement. So the average age of the cabinet is 40. There are only two ministers who are 50 plus. Otherwise, most of them are below 40. Majority of the leaders in the parliament are around 40. So this is a historic change that we see in Nepal. Now, in this context, now let's evaluate 100 days of government. Since I said we have a very young prime minister and a very young cabinet with a very young member of parliamentarians, we have seen a kind of new rigor, what you call energy in the parliament. What has happened in 100 days is that there is absolute corruption control. No one in the country can say that Balendra Shah is a corrupt government or he is a corrupt person. No one can really claim that, even the opposition. So we can see that it's strong fear among the people, bureaucracy, all systems of government, that there is no tolerance for corruption. So that is one. That is really required and demanded by the people, because you know that Gen Z movement started based on corruption. So that is one. Second, never in the history we had seen people getting so serious about the manifesto or pledges made during election. But the moment this government was formed, there was a website called Pratipaksha. On this website, they started tracking the 100-point government action plan. And if you look at today, if you visit the website, which is today is 22nd July, you can see that out of 100 pledges that they had made, 63 are completed and 36 are on way. That means 63% they have succeeded. And not looking at the intensity, It can be, maybe they might have touched the low-hanging fruit and all those. But overall, if you just look at the number, out of 100, 63 has been completed. So this shows that this government was very serious from day one. Today, like if you look at the manifesto, they're also looking every point very seriously. So that is one that I've seen. Second is like there's a strong sense of what you call commitment among the leadership. Like they are, in terms of delivery, they are very committed. In terms of reach, they are very reachable. The channel of communication are there. So this is how I look at it. The 100 days of government people see as a very serious government. At the same time, there are some issues. These team are learning because all young people. So I think they are learning. But what is most sure is that people have hope that this government will deliver.
You are quite right that whatever's happened in Nepal in the past 1 year has been historic on many, many marks. And interestingly, you brought up the manifesto. It was called a variety of things. It was called a commitment paper and policy paper and whatnot. But this manifesto was very ambitious. RSP's manifesto was very ambitious. And the things that it was proposing almost called for a complete overhaul of institutions as they stand, whether it was political, bureaucratic, administrative. So in that light, what do you think this government's top 3 domestic priorities are?
I think the 3 major domestic priorities of current government is one, governance. Good governance, anti-corruption is most important. Second, I'd call it economic recovery, or you can say employment, investment, connectivity, economic aspect, where people can see physical development. And third will be public service delivery, which has, again, legal reforms, digital use, and all that. Let me go in detail. As I said, the whole movement was based on corruption, anti-corruption movement. So that's why the Prime Minister, moment he was elected, or he was sworn in as a Prime Minister, he said that his whole focus will be good governance, corruption control. He announced that he will not travel to any country for 1 year, and this year will be year of governance. So he clearly put it on the table that his priorities, top priority will be good governance. He tried to institutionalize that. He tried to bring different digital governance system, e-governance, and all kind of system, technological and all imports was there, so that there can be good governance, no tolerance on corruption. So that is one. Zero tolerance on corruption was the top priority, which is still there. Second, in order to give relief to the people, obviously economic recovery will be there, employment opportunities, more investment in the country, and more connectivity project that will bring investment. So this is the major priority. I think the foreign finance minister has given huge importance to that. If you look at our budget of this year, it's very ambitious. So that is second, where because obviously people in Nepal who are deprived of development, they really want to see changes in their life in terms of economic reforms. So that is second. Third is like quick delivery. I mean, public service delivery is very important. For example, the driving license, it is just a smart card. If you go to any hotel, they can issue in 2 minutes. If you go to any universities, they have digital card. It will take hardly a day or a week. We had to wait for 3 to 4 years to get a driving license, the proper smart card. This government completed all the pending tasks in 3 months. So this is the assurance given to the people that the public service delivery will be on time. They are trying to digitalize the whole process. So that is the main. Similarly, many things are a bit slow because lots of legal reforms are required. It's so complicated. So if those legal reforms are made, they'll be able to deliver service on time. At the same time, even economic recovery will be quick. For example, you want to provide connectivity roads, connectivity projects. Now, legal system is so complicated, it takes years and years to go through that. So they want to change those legal aspect and speed up the process. I think good governance, which is corruption control, economic recovery or employment or investment in the country that can bring economic transformation, and third, public service delivery. These are 3 major priorities that the current government have, and they have been working on it.
These are very central. All of these priorities, as you noted, these are central and they really strike to the heart of what the protests were about. So, what this government has been born out of is precisely what it is seeking to address. However, there are some challenges to the current government as well. Barendra Shah's government at the moment is facing some protests to itself. There's concerns about some amount of forcible eviction of squatters and such without having a proper path ahead, a proper resettlement plan. There is complaints against police apathy, excesses of municipal governments, municipalities, and such. So this really seems to be this government's first brush with dissent, so to say. How are they responding to it? And do you think this government, so early in its tenure, is well placed to weather these shocks?
Let me bring up different challenges. One is internal. Let me go with that first, and then we'll come to external.
Right.
Balender Saha joined a party, RSP, just 1 month before he was elected, or before the election. So he is one person who joined the party and he became the prime minister. So he joined a new party, a completely new party, and he is not even the party member. He don't even have support base in the party where he can claim that these are my cadres. So that is one. How he manages the party is very important because he was just dropped, parachuted in the party as a prime minister candidate. So now the internal differences exist in all the major political parties in the country. You know, our political parties are always very fragmented. Look at Nepali Congress, there is always 2 or 3 factions, CP and UMN, or Maoist, any party always have 2 to 3 factions. Here it's obvious because there is one new face, just they came in the party and claimed the prime minister position. So how he manages that, the relationship between Balin and the party chief, relationship between Balin and other party leaders who are influential is most important. And there are rumors, there are noises that there is some kind of discomfort. So how he balances that is very, very important. Second, in terms of delivery, you talked about issues of squatters, or you can say landless people and all. The way he handles certain aspect is questionable. The way he handles cases or criminal case, what you call corruption cases, the way he sends police and all. People say that he has not followed due legal courses and all. So the way of the way the government functions is all questioned. So that is second part. Some say it's unconstitutional, some said they have not followed due process, or some says they have opened too many fronts at the same time. Or some says like it is very authoritarian in nature. Some says he do not follow even the party diktat, or there is no consultation, there is no communication within the cabinet. So this is the functioning of government is second most challenges, major challenges, because that can bring discomfort, and there can be a huge voices from different groups. That is second. Third is that he has also not been able to engage with the international community well, which I can discuss much detail later. That he has not been able to communicate with the international community very effectively. He has met with the ambassadors, but there are some kind of discomfort from China, from India, from other major players in this country, that he has not given proper attention that really requires for the country like Nepal. I think these are the 3 major challenges that he faces at the moment.
These are all such interrelated challenges. When you speak about there being some amount of discomfort within the party itself, and then the head of the face of the party, the prime minister, also leading with his own personal style more than perhaps an institutionally acceptable style when it comes to other forms of delivery. So these are all frictions that are interrelated, and you're right, it must be. It's interesting to see how that well pans out. These are definite serious challenges, which can very quickly lead to instability internally. But now that we've discussed the domestic aspect at some length, let's move our lens a little externally and discuss about the international things that you were hinting at. What do you think are the foreign policy priorities for the government, or what do you think should be the foreign policy priorities for this government?
The current government have stated that they will continue when it comes to foreign policy. There will be continuation in foreign policy. There will be no change in Nepal's relation with the external world.
Mhm.
That has been clearly stated by the foreign minister. But there is some priority of the government. The government have clearly stated that the foreign policy priority of this government will be development diplomacy, which means that they will try to engage with the external world in terms of development projects, investment, which can develop the country. So it's development diplomacy is the word that government have coined. And that's why if you look at the situation at the moment, the government is strongly engaging with countries around the world and trying to seek investment, engaging more on economic diplomacy, looking at venues for investment, at the same time, opportunities for youth. So for the first time, the government is focusing more on trade negotiations. There is a delegation coming from around the world who are willing to invest. Minister of Commerce are coming. Otherwise there's not much exchanges. Since there is political stability in the country, because we have almost two-third majority government at the moment, there is lots of enthusiasm even from external world. There are lots of high-level visits where countries are willing to invest in this country. They see that it's the right time to invest. I'll give you a few examples. During Gen Z movement, which happened in September last year, one of the most recent hotel was burnt, Hilton. Hilton is a very international brand, and it was a very recent one. It was burned down. In spite of that, the top brand hotel investor are coming to Nepal. Marriott and many others are willing to invest in extra luxury, ultra luxury hotels in Kashmir, because they see that there is some kind of stability in the country. Similarly, for the first time, the delegation from Australia is coming to negotiate bilateral trade. There is trade minister from UAE coming to Nepal. Otherwise, we hardly. So there are delegations from Europe. There are delegations from different countries coming to Nepal. ADB has promised to invest $2.4 billion in this country. Provide loan for them. So this is a new enthusiasm in the country. Because of that development diplomacy, because the government have clearly prioritized that. The government have clearly stated that development diplomacy will be their priorities, and that's why the other countries are very willing to come, invest, engage in the country, and at the same time they see stability, which will deliver results. So I think there's lots of enthusiasm at the moment.
There's a lot of economic robustness that the government is seeking internationally and also offering to its international partners. That is well noted. Just to cap off this conversation, lastly, I'd like to ask you specifically when it comes to the international aspect of it with regards to India. What is your read on this government's relations and proposed relations with India? We've seen some amount of interaction happen already with the Prime Minister, the Nepali Prime Minister himself, bringing up controversial issues like the border contestations. And the RSP party president himself visited India, and may I say he got a very warm welcome here. So what do you see this relation as developing into?
As I said earlier, this government want to continue relation with India, and within 2 to 3 months, within 2 to 3 weeks, the foreign minister of Nepal met the foreign minister of India, external minister of India, Jaiswal, in Mauritius. That is how he started his engagement. There has been lots of exchange, as you just mentioned. The party head Ravi Lamechhane was in Delhi, and he received very warm welcome. And the foreign minister followed the visit, and he communicated the priorities of the government. There are lots of other engagement where the Secretary North of MEA was in Nepal recently. So there's lots of there's continuation in the process. At the same time, what we have also witnessed is that there is some serious negotiations, serious discussion going between the two countries. The Prime Minister of Nepal was invited to India to visit, and he said that he wants to visit when the time is appropriate and when there's enough, what you call, homework done, which means that he wants to have very serious visit to India. If you look at previous visits, the moment there's a new Prime Minister to visit India, and it was customary, the return outcome was very limited. And people used to mention that the visit of the Nepalese Prime Minister to that country or India was for survival of the regime. Right now, the government do not have the such survival issues. So that's why I think the visit of Balin to India will be very remarkable. It will take place at a time which will bring some tangible outcomes. At the same time, I think the government, Biden government, will try to negotiate in a way that will make both sides very serious. And otherwise, we can see that there used to be number of negotiations, number of agreements, number of pledges, but they were not delivered, or they were delayed by years and years. I think the visit of maybe in the future, whenever the visit will take place, there will be very serious discussions where timely implementation of the project will be on top priority. So I think that is one. The current government has made both sides very serious when it comes to investment. Second, the current government have clearly mentioned that we don't have any historical baggage, which means that this party do not see any complication in the relations. If you look at the communist parties of Nepal, they always see India as a threat sometimes because they say, oh, India is expansionist or India intervenes, and there's some kind of accusations on India, or there's lots of blame game looking at the history, but this party said we are not looking at the past, we are looking at the future, and India in future is a rising power. It's our neighbor, it's an important partner. It's one of the emerging power, and that is where Nepal has opportunities. We're not looking at the past, we're looking at the future, where both Nepal and India can engage, flourish together, and support each other. And that's why this is clearly stated by the foreign minister and other leaders that we do not look at the past, we don't have any historical baggage, which is clearly stating that we have a greater. Second, they have said that development diplomacy is our goal. There are priorities, and India is the major development provider to Nepal. The major development projects to Nepal comes from India. So I think there is lots of overlap where Nepal want to focus on development diplomacy. India is a major development partner. India want to support Nepal's development. So there is lots of area for collaboration, cooperation days to come. Obviously, there is huge market for each other. India will be happy to utilize that. Nepal has lots of resources when it comes to hydropower, tourism, technology, new areas of investment, data centers. There are lots of opportunities that are available in the country, and India has capital, India has technology, India would be interested because of the way we are interconnected. So I think there are lots of areas to collaborate, cooperate, and excel together. Coming to your other point, which is very complicated, the border issues. I think we did a bad start. We did a bad start because on the day the day Nepalese Prime Minister Barendra Saha was swearing in, early morning on that day, PTI, Press Trust of India, made a news that India and China want to trade through Lipule. And we all know that it's both sides claims to be it's their territory. It's a disputed territory. Now, when a new prime minister in Nepal is swearing in, I think that news could have been avoided. It could have been avoided because India controls Lipule. And always, every day there must be some progress. There might be a trade negotiation through that route. There can be some construction of road and all. Making that news was very uncomfortable, probably one for the prime minister. Because that is how nationalism works. The moment you are swearing and you have news coming up on border issues, the first question the press would ask is, what did you stand on this? They'll not ask what is priority. They'll ask, look, Indian media talks about people and what do you stand? I think that is a bad start. We should have avoided that, especially when Press Trust of India belongs to the state. Then our prime minister said that this is a disputed territory. We can resolve it through dialogue. And we are willing to resolve that. That is a good start. Obviously, Nepal and India have very special relations, and I think everything or any issues contentious can be resolved through dialogue, especially when relations are very special. Similarly, I think Nepal is not claiming that it belongs to us. Nepal is telling that let's share our map, let's check the realities, and we'll, evidence based on evidence, we'll decide that. Nepal don't even have capacity to fight with India, and we don't need to do that. So dialogue and negotiation is the only way out. That is what Nepal asked for, that let's sit on the table, discuss and debate. I think India also have that opportunity, and I think burden also lies on India, how to resolve these issues, because Nepal and India have very special relations. We have open border, historical ties. The chief of army staff of Nepal is only chief of army staff of India, vice versa. Cross-border marriages. Several thousands of Nepalese serve in Gorkha regiment. So that is the type of relation. When you have that kind of relations, when relation is most special in the whole world, I think this can be resolved. And that's why I have always been saying that if India can't resolve a border dispute with Nepal, I think India will not be able to resolve border dispute with any country in the world. We don't expect India to resolving border dispute with Pakistan or China or any others, because they have complicated relations, very complicated. But we have very special relations, and we are just saying that based on evidence, let's sort it out. So I think it's possible. At the same time, our Prime Minister has given enough indications. He even mentioned in the Nepalese Parliament that encroachment of border is not only from India to Nepal; it's also from Nepal to India. The kind of acceptability of the reality. You need lots of courage. You need lots of courage to speak about it in the Parliament. Can you imagine if such a statement is made by Indian leader in Parliament? It can be challenging. It can be uproar from the opposition, accepting some harsh realities, and he did that. At the same time, recently on 1 rupees note, there is a map which is disputed. Obviously, it includes this. He has decided to remove that map of Nepal. Previous Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, he put that particular territory new map on 100 rupees note and 1 rupees coin. And the current Prime Minister have taken a very courageous step, and he's trying to remove that. Now, that is a very positive signal that they are willing to negotiate with India and resolve that. I think we should take it very positively that in spite of some kind of provocation or some kind of steps that was taken on the day of swearing, such kind of news coming up, I think we have managed and we have balanced that situation. So I think it's a very wonderful opportunity for both the sides to sit together and resolve those issues.
No, certainly, there is much to watch in the months to come. And as you've already pointed out, many areas of collaboration and cooperation, especially since India and Nepal are close partners, long-time partners as well. This has been a very holistic discussion, and thank you so much for coming in and sharing all of these nuances with us and with our audience. Like I said, there is much to watch. It's only been around 100 days for this new government, and so in the coming months, I hope we have more to discuss, bigger, better things to discuss, and I look forward to that. This will be all from our episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.